Okay, we're ready. We're ready. You can start. It's recording. Hi, Lunga. Please just tell us briefly about yourself.
Hi, Doc. Can you hear me?
Yes, it's perfect. Go ahead.
I'm Lunga Ndlela, Ndlela. I'm a student at Durban University of Technology, currently doing my second year. I met with Sinomusa Notando and Dr. Thandeka Mazibuko in 2013 through my mom, who was diagnosed with cancer in that year. Dr. Thandeka Mazibuko, through the organization, helped to secure her treatment at Eddington Hospital right here in Durban, and she actually helped through many other encounters she had during that treatment.
Tell us about yourself, Lunga. Just briefly, who you are, where you're from, what your mother, who was your mother, just your family. Who do you live with at home?
I'm currently staying in a township of Inanda in Durban. It's a peaceful township, well known for the founders of our currently part of South Africa. I was born here. I've lived here for a large part of my life. My mother is Pamela Ndlela. She also grew up here, and she died in 2014, and I was 13 years old at that time. And I'm currently under the supervision. Father is actually not here at the moment because of lockdown restrictions. He's held up Ozwatini where we're staying, and I actually have to be here because I'm studying in Cervical, so I have to be here in order for me to be able to access the network and study online. I have siblings. My older brother is doing his third year in accounting science at the University of Johannesburg, and my smaller siblings are currently at school, at primary school.
Tell us about your grandfather. I know you're very close to your grandfather. I really like him a lot, that old man. He's a wonderful man. I saw him advocating for your father. Tell us a little bit more about him.
Grandfather is a very funny, that's first, religious man I've ever seen. His kind, caring. He was that grandfather who was always up for a challenge, always up who's positive about life. That's my grandfather. He's a very emotional man and I learned a lot from him, and in a sense whereby we are being the society teaches us to be less emotional as men, but himself he's able to go beyond the fact of being a man, a father, and be able to say, I yabona la, ayingangami, ngiyahluleka nami, let us come together and strategize. That's my grandfather. I spend a lot of time with him. I just be around, and a very strict man. to be precise. Is very strict.
You got cut off a little bit there. You said, I found him, and then you got cut off, and you came when you said he's a very strict man. Do you want to tell us more about your grandfather? That part that got cut off. You got cut off while you were talking about your grandfather. You came back when you say he was a very strict man. Just tell us that part that we missed, because you have a very poor network sometimes.
Please repeat that.
You got cut off again. Okay, Lunga. So I met your grandfather at Durban City Hall when we were hosting a cancer awareness event and free cancer screening. There was a walk, and the walk started from Prikasem, which is Durban Christian Center, all the way, which was 5 kilometer walk organized by Sinomusa Notando Community Development and my initiative to raise an awareness of cancer. And your grandfather came to this walk and he joined us. And at the time of the questions, your grandfather stood up and started speaking, telling us about your mother. Do you want to tell us briefly about your mother's illness?
Can you please the question? I couldn't hear you.
Did you hear the story of your grandfather coming to the cancer walk? Your grandfather coming to the cancer walk that was hosted at the Durban City Hall. And he, when it was time for questions for the community, he stood up and he told us about your mother. Can you tell us your side? I will share your grandfather's side, but I want to know your side of your mother's illness that day when I met you and I met your grandfather. Can you tell us briefly what was going on at home, the situation at home with your mother being sick, diagnosed of cervical cancer?
I didn't hear very clearly, but I think you asked me to tell you more about my mother is very caring, also strict. I'm from a strict family, very spiritual, praying woman, and most of all, she was a beautiful woman. I believe that some of her prayers are one of those prayers that push me, that continue to push me. And I remember in last month spent with her, there's that prayer which she always say, whereby she would even cry, saying, Gosiama, I want children to be educated, my children to graduate. And I believe that that prayer is the prayer which continues to motivate myself. And I believe that it's which also motivates my brother who's older than me as he's pursuing his but she was a very mother, very and one of the things I can tell about my mother is what my neighbor used to told me a few months ago. She said, I knew that your mother did not have girls. Iy'ngane zamantombazane ziyasilama sibadala singabafana, and there's always that ideology yokuthi abafana shouldn't be doing house chores because abafana. There are those ideologies, and my mother would say anginazi iy'ngane zamantombazane, if mina nithi anilekeleli la endlini ngizolekelela ubani, that and the neighbor I'm telling you about, apparently she came to visit my mother when she was sick, and she was just complimenting how we were treating our mother. And for us, it's nothing very different in particular, but for her to see Uguti, these boys who were very young back then, because I was 12 years old, my older brother was 14 years old. That's a very young age, and most of the children love to go outside and play out by then. But she was able to teach us a certain level of responsibility ekaya, and I think it will always be with us wherever we go. And one of the things she taught us, I usually say she taught us to be amadoda aqotho by not allowing us to fight. We knew for a fact that though the community promotes the young boys to fight, when young boys at school go into a fight, would say the community would say, they are boys. It continues to happen. And for us, we knew that once you go into a fight, you are going to get it. You are not. You are in deep trouble. So she emphasized that fighting is not a good thing. Even bullying is not a good thing. Yes, standing up for yourself if you see that justice is not being done, something right has to happen, is right, but fighting was wrong. It still stays namanje. And at high school, I would run away just because I saw people fighting, and I would keep my distance very far away. And those are her teachings. And yeah, that's pretty much my mom. Your mic is on mute. Please. Please unmute your mic. It's on mute.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I'm sorry about that. Your mom was a beautiful woman, and I remember that she was in a lot of pain. Do you want to tell us about that? Do you want to share about your mother's pain? Do you remember how much of a pain your mother was in because of her illness? And how did that pain make you feel?
The question, can you please repeat it?
Your mom was in a lot of pain. Do you remember your mom's pain and what the things she said about her illness? And how did that make you feel? Lunga's mother was a cervical cancer patient who I came into contact with when she was not my patient. She was admitted in another hospital at Eddington Hospital when I was working at Alba Lutuli Hospital in South Africa. So Lunga's grandfather came to our cancer awareness walk. And when it was time for questioning, Lunga's grandfather started raising questions and say her daughter has been discharged out of the hospital, and him and his two sons, which is Lunga, had to take care of the mother at home with a urinary catheter. He was discharged by Eddington Hospital with a urinary catheter. And the grandfather said, I have to wash my own daughter and my two sons. We exchange in taking care of our daughter because the hospital refuses to admit her. They discharged her while she was critically ill. Do you recall the pain your mother went through? Do you recall the pain that your mother went through, Lunga? Do you recall what your mother went through at that time? Can you tell us? So what happened was we hired a car to go see. So first of all, I went to see her personally with another doctor who was part of assisting the organization at that time. We went to Lunga's house, which is quite far from where I live. And this was part of my commitment in helping the community, that we will do home visits because most of the Black patients were not booked in time. So most of the Black patients were not booked in time. Then you find that most of the patients were discharged even when they are ill. This is the problem with the ill treatment of the Black cancer patients that I observed personally. And Lunga's mother is one of them who were not really treated fairly. And personally, I felt it was important that I rescue her and help her the best way that I can. Rescuing her was rescuing from knowing the pain that cervical cancer, advanced cervical cancer has, and was also the fact that here's a grandpa standing in front of us at our cancer awareness walk, begging for help. Your grandfather was begging for help. He was helpless. He was hopeless. He was alone. The hospital has neglected your family, had neglected your family. You had nobody to help you. And I felt it was a great importance for me to do something about this situation and intervene in order your mom not to be in pain. And I felt like as a Black woman too, and a Black child, and a rural woman, and a woman, and an African, and a South African, it's about high time that we Black South Africans help our own Black people. They should not suffer, because I believe it would have not happened to another race, but it happens to our race. So I felt like as a Black doctor and who has power to assist and knowledge, and I had money of my own that I used to travel. And I went to Lunga's home and I found Lunga and your young brother, and I met your mother, and she was in a lot of pain. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yes, my mother a very long time. The first thing I can say is that the hospital actually gave her a date which was very far away after she was diagnosed with cancer. And even after being given a date which was far away, she was actually discharged with a
She was discharged with a urinary catheter, and the catheter had blood in it.
catheter.
And she was discharged
In
to
a
the
very
family.
bad condition, and actually told that not about the support she had when yes, she was discharged with the urinary catheter, and the only people she was staying with, it was myself and my brother, and my grandfather had a house which is approximately 5 kilometers away back then. So it was only the three of us whom she had for
So
support
you
besides the
so,
neighbors. So
so hold on. There was no female taking care of your mom, and there was no adult in the house. Your grandfather didn't live with you. This is news.
no, our grandfather didn't, but he was practically here every day.
But
Uh,
basically, you were basically responsible to take care of your
to
mother when
assist
the
because
hospital
most of the
charged it.
time was
So,
be
so
at
Lunga,
school from morning until during that time.
so Lunga, you were responsible for taking care of your mother while she was discharged with the urinary catheter that has
Yes, I'm
blood in
listening.
it. So you were responsible for taking care of your mother. No one else was there in the house. It was just you, your brother, and your mother. Because I remember your mother couldn't even stand up. She couldn't even wash herself. She also didn't have pain medication
I couldn't
when
hear
she
the
was
question. Can you please
discharged.
repeat it?
I remember your mother did not have a pain medication when we got there. And I remember she couldn't sit still. She was edgy on the chair. She was crying, holding her body, twisting and turning. She couldn't wash herself. She couldn't walk. I remember that. Can you speak more about that? What did you have to do for your mother? And now I'm surprised that it was just you and her, you and your mother in the house, and you were only 9 years old at that time.
Yes, she was in a lot of pain, and she she would be taken to the clinic for instance approximately 2 times a week, just and tell her to come back home, and nothing else done to this.
So at that time, your mother was sick and was at home. Who was cooking? Who was preparing? Because the role of the mother is to take care of the children. It's not for the children to take care of the mother. You were only 9 years old. So the role of your mom in the house was to cook. Who was then doing all the cooking because she was sick and the hospital wouldn't admit her? Do you recall the experiences that you had to go through, house chores, challenges that you had to face? Um, when we met Lunga, I remember, Lunga, is there anything you recall about the house chores, the cleaning, the washing? Who was washing your mom? She couldn't do a lot of things for herself. She was a stage 3B, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Uh, I don't remember exact stage. That was 2013. It was a long time ago. And she was not my patient as well. I came in to assist, as this is the reason why I started a nonprofit, because I realized that Black patients were really ill-treated by the doctors in Durban, South Africa. The oncologists were very cruel. They were not only cruel to patients, but they were also cruel to some of the doctors. Um, at that time, when Lunga's mother was discharged, they were discharged unfairly. She was discharged without getting radiation. She had not gotten any chemotherapy. She was critically ill. She was in a lot of pain. She was discharged with just ibuprofen, which did not manage to take care of her pain. So the patient then suffered a lot in front of the children. And this is the child today who's now at the university doing very well for himself. And I thank God, I've always been praying for Lunga. And because he suffered, he used to wash his own mother. When mother was sick, he did the cleaning and the cooking in the house because his mother was not well. So can you tell us whatever you remember, Lunga? I just think there was a lot of trauma that took place to this young man, of watching his mother having a cancer, first of all, and then watching his mother having not just cancer now, being ill-treated in the hospital, being discharged at home. Lunga had to wash his own mother. And I just think boys should not be going through that. I think even if when doctors are discharging a patient just because they said they had no beds, I understand there are no beds in the hospital, but and I remember that the MEC of Health, when I spoke about to him, he went on media criticizing me. MEC at that time, Minister of Health, criticizing me of helping the patient. And he said on Isole's newspaper, he said he does not have room for cancer patients. It's December time. He has room for people who are involved in car accidents. We even said with the volunteers, that is very cruel for a Ministry of Health to say such things on newspapers just because he wants to protect the fact that this patient was discharged unfairly. And it was not only Lunga's mother. There were 3 cervical cancer patients in the same area discharged from the same hospital at the same time. So when we came to help Lunga's mother, we were then told there's 3 more patients that we had to take in our car and bring them along for them to get the help. Lunga, if you want to tell us more, go ahead. I think Lunga, we got cut off a little bit right there. If Lunga can tell us more on his side, but he has a connection problem. Just have to unmute this one. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we're gonna leave it right there for now, because I think we had an error in connection with Lunga. But basically, I just want to say cervical cancer is treatable, is preventable if you detect it early. It is very important that you go get yourself checked as soon as possible and go early, because the hospitals are very different in each country. Human rights are very different with each country. My request to you is please do take care of yourself and make sure you are well, and make sure that you are doing your pap smear early so that you are not diagnosed with advanced disease, because your treatment may be far different. Yes, some may say it's good, but there are patients who have not been treated well, because it depends which doctor is helping you. Not all doctors are going to be helpful the way you want to be helped. So what I'm requesting to you is that go get yourself checked and make sure the doctor who's treating you is treating you with dignity, kindness, and is making sure that he's explaining everything in detail. And I want to say to the doctor, stop abusing patients. And I'm serious about this one. I worked with doctors who were really abusive to patients. And I don't want to talk about the details of their names, but they know themselves, how they were harassing Black patients, how they were ill-treating Black patients, how they were isolating Black patients, how they were moving Black patients to the last to be treated. Some things we should not be involved in as doctors. If you have a hate, leave it at home and come to the hospital to help people. Hate does not make life better for you. It does not make life better for me. It does not make life better for your patient. If you don't like a certain patient, because they say, most doctors say that patients are smelling, cancer smells. Why are you going to ill treat a person just because he smells? Cervical cancer is going to smell. Yes, it's going to smell badly, but a patient is not a smell. A patient is a human being. Stop being disgusted by your own patients. You still take the money at the end of the month, the same patients that they are paying. Cervical cancer is killing a lot of our women, and it's early detectable, preventable, and it's curable. Yes, it is curable. You have to know about the stages. I've done a recording. Listen to all my YouTube, and you listen and hear how you can prevent cervical cancer and make sure that you live longer, you live a better life. It is very, very important. It is very important that you make sure that your life is important, that you make sure that your life is safe. It's very important that you live a longer life through early detection. It's very important. I cannot emphasize this more. I wish you safety. I wish you long life. And I am hoping and praying that you will take care of the patients that comes to you when they come with a problem of cancer. I'm just going to be emphasizing this because cancer has a bad smell. Kaposi sarcoma patients will smell from a distance. And I've seen doctors chasing a patient just because they smell. And here is Lunga's mother was discharged with a urinary catheter to go home and stay without any therapy. Patients we sent home with no pain medication. Pain medication was insufficient. We had to